Welcome on to another NFL preview. My name is Matt Gannon of Fanshare Sports, and we're back. Another NFL preview. Week 1 was awesome. I did it by myself, but I got a special guest this week. Guys, you guys might know, NFL guy, golf guy. You can't miss any E-Bomb content, so I'm just gonna bring him right in. That's Chris E-Bomb. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here, Chris.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate being on Jersey Betting, man. Being a Jersey man myself, I can respect the brand and anything for you, man. This is awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I wish I could say I was in Jersey right now. I'm in Maryland, sadly, but how's Jersey treating you right now? How's the weather getting there?
Yeah, it's fine. It's about 8 degrees, 7 degrees, pretty good. I'm actually taking off work tomorrow, going golfing in Delaware. Actually,
Where are you playing?
I'm going to be playing White Clay Creek at Delaware Park right there. Never played there. Went and check it out. So looks like a real nice public course. I'm excited.
Sweet. So what we're going to do here is go through game by game, pretty simple stuff. Start at the Thursday night game all the way to the Monday night doubleheader and talk some betting DFS. So let's get right into it. I'll bring up the Chargers and Chiefs, bring up the DFS slate, and let's rock. So we got Chargers it's actually switched around. Chargers are 4-point underdogs at the Chiefs. No Keenan Allen might be an issue, but what do you think is going to go around in this game?
Well, pretty much what I'm looking at, I think it's going to be an underplay for the most part. I think these defenses at least the Chargers defense is going to come out and play. I always talk about the NFL lines that come out for the week are always based on what happened last week. NFL is notorious for it. If you look at future lines like week 2, week 3, they never match up because crazy things happen. There's outrights. The Giants beat the Titans. Things like that happen. And the Cardinals looked absolutely like dog shit. And, KC took care of them. And the Chargers were in kind of a close game in a division game. Now they're getting a little disrespected. They were like the darling of the season. Now we're getting 4 points. I feel like that's crazy.
And I think it opened at 3.5. It got up to 4.5 at times. I think it's a little bit of the Keenan Allen thing is driving the line, which I feel like is fair. But I still think the Chargers are a live dog here, 110%.
Absolutely.
They have a much better defense, and the offenses are give and take. There's no more Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. This Chargers offense can easily run with the Chiefs offense. And can the Chiefs cover this game? Easily. A late touchdown, win by 6-7, 100%. But I think if there's a play here on a side, I think it has to be to the Chargers even without Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of crazy. There's a lot of public perception, from last week. Everyone's like, hey, they can do it. They can do it again. They could smash again. But the Chargers are a good team. Herbert's fantastic. He's the quarterback you really want to have on your team. When I evaluate a quarterback, anyone that has a zip off a ball and you don't see the ball till it hits him in the chest, that's Herbert. I wish my quarterback Hurts was like that. He kind of that ball kind of just floats in the air in a little bit and everything. But I'll tell you what, man, Chargers fans should be excited about Herbert because honestly, when he was at Oregon, I was like, he's okay. And then all of a sudden, he was great.
Yeah, I like how you described that ball because that's what I would call rise and fire.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Rise and fire, Justin Herbert. And then from a DraftKings point of view, fantasy, this is going to be a very heavy game if you're playing the full slate. If you're playing Thursday to Monday, I don't know how many people do that, but a lot of people are going to be playing this showdown-wise because this is a two higher-powered offense, a high total for a reason. And who am I going to tell you to stay away from in this game? Not many people. They're all very fair options. You want to there's no one I would say, okay, don't play because both of these offenses can go crazy on any given night. I don't want to say oh, you got to stay away from Mahomes and Kels because the Chargers defense. No, they can do it against anyone. So I feel like this is just, I'm not playing showdown tonight. I think you should just stay away from this game if you're playing a full slate because everyone's going to be on it. And I don't know, fade the chalk is what you got to do in DFS. So, you ready to move on to the next game?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right. Dolphins head to Baltimore, where I am right now. Baltimore is currently 3.5-point favorite. I think they're a bit better than that, but the Tua-led Dolphins kind of showed some promise against New England last week. So, what's your thoughts on this game?
Well, I think this is a Baltimore Ravens line. I mean, this pretty much is screaming out, take Baltimore with the spread. It looks way too easy to take the Dolphins. I mean, the Patriots looked really bad, right? I think that's a big part of what everybody was on the Dolphins, and that was a very public play. The public's going to want to stick back with them again. And with the Ravens kind of like lollygagging that first half, like it looks like, hey, maybe they're not as great as they are. But I think they didn't take the game too seriously. And then once it got a little close, like pedal to the metal, Lamar Jackson was throwing dimes and everything. So I like the Ravens here, honestly. I'm more than happy to take the 3.5 because I played them to win their division, the AFC North, at plus like 145. I thought that was really good value. So we're finally getting a healthy Ravens team. I mean, I think one of the corners might be out. I might be wrong, but overall, this offense should be clicking, and Dobbins, I think, is going to play. I could be wrong. Am I right? Is he going to be playing?
I think Dobbins is back this week. Yeah, I think he is. But even if he is, like, I don't know how much you want to touch Ravens running backs. I mean, as like a whole, I think that's a benefit to the team. But Ravens running backs are a little bit much because you don't know what you're getting from Drake. You don't know what you're getting from Dobbins. You don't know what you're getting from Lamar in a ground point of thing. So if you want to play anyone in DraftKings, it's got to be Lamar and a receiver, I'd say, because if Lamar is going to do good, one of the receivers are going to do good. A lot of people in DraftKings like to play Lamar alone, which doesn't really make sense if you want to win the big money, because if you want to play Lamar alone, he has to rush for 250 and then throw no touchdowns, and that's not really going to happen. I mean, it can, but it's not really going to. Dolphin side of things, they did what they had to do last week, beat I would say, bad New England team. And like Tua didn't even look good. And I think, he's the X factor. This is the prove it year for Tua. He has all these tools around him. And if he's not going to do it, this is the first real test he's going to get, because you can say what you want about New England. This is a road test against a AFC favorite in Baltimore. So I'm very intrigued in this game. I think the Ravens will cover, but I don't think I'm going to be playing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough game. If I gun in my head, I'd take Ravens for the most part. But Tua is an interesting kind of guy. They talk about his arm strength and everything. I mean, when he was at Alabama, he just came out of left field. That was a game I remember real well because I had Georgia in that game. And then all of a sudden, I knew Hurts was playing, so I knew I was getting into. And also, they throw Tua in there. He's throwing like a 45-yard bomb, and it's like,
who's this guy?
They just threw him out there like a changeup. It was crazy. But now he's in NFL. Everybody's good. You know, these Bama guys, they get – they're the superior talent from like offensive line and everything else. So guys look better than they usually are. So Tua, this is really a big year for Tua to see if he can really get that. He's got Tyreek Hill, absolutely outstanding.
No excuse.
I mean, they should be ready to roll, no problem. So, I personally just like the Ravens here because I'm really high on them this year in general because
Me too.
Healthy, and I think they could have done a lot better if they were healthy. So, I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards the Dolphins, and it's going to be a losing play at the end of the day. So I would Ravens.
The Dolphins are going to be a fairly publicly bet team this year because of like all the offensive weapons they had, but which is very fair. Like they have the weapons and the defense is there, but it's like, can Tua do it? He hasn't really done it yet, and this is like he has no excuse this year. If he doesn't do it this year, like it's done for Tua, I would say. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to the next game. We got the Jets head to Cleveland, who is a 6.5-point favorite. And I don't know if Cleveland should be a touchdown favorite really against anyone at this point in the season, because they could beat some good teams with I feel like they have some upsides, but they could also lose to anyone, especially with Brissett at quarterback. So what are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, this is way too many points for a Brissett team that, when he was with the Colts and the Patriots and everything like that, like he'd be winning close games. Like he's a game manager. He's not a bad quarterback, but to win by a touchdown, Flacco is not horrible. He always has one of those games where he comes out and he's just like, whoa, like he threw for a couple of touchdowns. Look at what the Panthers did last week. So you had, what was their top wide receiver? He went off like crazy. And
I think Robbie Anderson played the most.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson. Yeah. I couldn't think of his name off the top of my head, but Robbie Anderson went bonkers. This secondary definitely has some holes in it, even though it's been very touted on the defensive line and everything like that. But 6.5 points is too much. And honestly, if you're feeling froggy and you want to leave, I wouldn't mind taking the Jets money line here. This might be like a sneaky spot where like You get some
Yeah,
good
no, I
bang
like
for
that.
your buck. I mean, the Browns aren't the best, and they just squeaked out a win that they barely should have won.
Yeah,
So this is a point of like buying low. I mean, this is, the Jets are always low, but the Browns, this is like kind of a high point for them. They're 6.5-point favorites. It's kind of crazy. So if you're feeling froggy, sprinkle the money line a little bit. I think they got a shot.
Yeah, and I wrote up Joe Flacco last week as a DFS sleeper,
Sure.
and he obviously did not pan out. They didn't do anything on offense. They hung around, but Joe Flacco threw the ball 59 times
That's
last week.
absurd.
Absurd. That is like peak Tom Brady levels, like throwing the ball that much. So if I don't think that was part of the game plan. I didn't expect it to be. I just thought he was like a low price target that has upside. But if you're telling me Joe Flacco's throwing the ball 59 times, I am playing him again at, what is he? 5,100. Like that is.
I would play him this week. I think he's gonna have a great opportunity to throw against this team. That's a sneaky like little DFS play if you like really want to load up on the other end.
Yeah, and I love Elijah Moore. I'm probably going to play Flacco and Elijah Moore at that's going to be 10-1 combined. That's fairly cheap. So I think that is a good play. Those might be two guys I will be playing in DFS this week. So those are really the first two guys I've gotten to so far. Didn't love anyone from the first two games, so we'll move on. But we both think the Jets will be in this game and probably cover that number.
They'll definitely be in the game.
All right, so we'll move on to the Bucs. They're 2.5-point favorites at New Orleans. Interesting game. No Godwin clearly for Tampa Bay, so that puts more pressure on Mike Evans and Julio Jones. They just have another two more elite wide receivers. Feels like Alabama, but what do you think is going to happen here?
I think the big question of the day is the offensive line for Tampa Bay. I mean, they're banged up there. And Tom Brady, he's a statue, does his little moves here and there, but he got frustrated out there with his offensive line last week.
He was yelling.
And Cameron Jordan's going to be right there. He's going to be headhunting, if you will, to say the least. But
yeah,
Jameis, I'll tell you what, I think Jameis is going to have a really decent year this year. I mean, like, people rag on him for all his little things and everything. The dude got LASIK. I mean, he's not going to throw 1,000 picks like he did before. He's not a bad quarterback. In college, Florida State, he was a winning quarterback. Sometimes it takes these guys a little bit longer to establish in the league. Everybody's really good. I think this is a line that's saying, hey, take Tampa Bay. Once again, they're going to win by 3. They just dominated the Cowboys.
Sneaky line.
The shootout against the Falcons, and that was kind of a game I had last week that I liked the over at 42.5. But honestly, I want to be shocked if the Saints win this game. I'm more than happy to take the Saints at this point with a really banged up offensive line for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, this 3-point, like less than 3-point road favorites never are as easy as they look.
No, never.
No, if you're just blindly betting 3-point road favorites, you had the NFL, you will be down money. I could promise you that. Because sure, the Buccaneers are a better team, but it's football, man. Like home field matters. Like bad teams win. I'm not saying the Saints are bad, but like this is a kind of like a rat line because the Bucs should easily cover that 2.5.
Right.
But I don't know how. I was so heavy on the Cowboys last week, and I wouldn't say the Bucs did anything special last week. I just think the Cowboys were that bad, and I was I was wrong about the Cowboys last week. But the Bucs defense did look pretty good but I think this firepower Saints-led offense could do something with Jameis. So this is an interesting game. I don't really have anything to note here fantasy-wise. Like, there could be points here. Like Saints Bucs kind of does scream points. Like I would say 4 years ago, both of these defenses are better now. But when you think Saints Bucs, you kind of think points. Nothing really turns my head here fantasy-wise. So we will move on to Panthers. My Carolina Panthers. You're an Eagles fan, so my Carolina Panthers head to New Jersey and play the Giants, 2-point favorites. Ugly game, just an ugly game. Like I'll admit it. I won't be checking this game out. I'll have red zone on. But what are we thinking here? Because Carolina turned up late in the second half. They started off flatter than flat. So hopefully they can carry some momentum. I wish that we could have started off 1-0, but it's not the case.
Well, you know what? I really do feel like, so when I look at the beginning of the season, you look at teams, you evaluate them and everything. Like the Giants, some people had them. Like my co-host Russ had them money line. But I don't know. Were you really going to think they're going to win as a 5.5-point favorite? Most of the time, as a dog, you're probably not going to. Could you imagine, just thinking here, could you imagine the Giants going 2-0 to start the season? I personally can't. I think the Panthers were in kind of a weird game. I think there was a lot of emotions in that game with Mayfield because he had a lot to prove. Maybe it was too much for him. for that game. I think this week, Giants are kind of just riding the high horse. I already bet the money line earlier this week on the Panthers. I really like them this game. I think they got the explosion with Robbie Anderson and McCaffrey and everything. I think this is kind of like you'll see a game where the Panthers actually make a little more noise. I think people are getting a little too excited about the Giants after week one, after the outright dog win. I already bet the Panthers money line, and I think that's the play this week.
Yeah, I think you're kind of talking me into that. Not even as a bias thing. I bet against the Panthers on a regular basis.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I bet against the Eagles all the time too.
Yeah. But I definitely kind of do like the Panthers in this spot because, or even like a first half type bet, because they came out hot in the second half, and Giants off of that win heading back home, feeling like the big guys as underdogs.
Feeling themselves a little bit.
Now they're favorites. Yeah, because I know as a New Jersey guy, like Giants fans get disappointed quicker than ever. So I can totally see a total letdown coming here. And this is another spot where you're getting Christian McCaffrey at a cheap price. He after this week, he's going to be 9K plus every week. I can promise you that. He was like 8.4, 8.5 last week. Didn't even do anything special last week, and he's already $400 more. So I think McCaffrey's another solid play. Baker started to use him more in the second half, but it's interesting because he's never really played with a quarterback this prolific besides Cam the first like 2 years of his career, and then he's had like dud quarterbacks, and it was all McCaffrey. So workload is going to be off him a little bit, which is for the better because as a Panthers fan, we don't want Christian McCaffrey touching the ball 35 times a game as much as we'd want him to. I need him to play. I don't want him hurt.
Absolutely. How do you feel about Matt Rule?
I liked him. I liked him at Temple. I liked him at Baylor. I was unsure. Like I didn't hate him, didn't love him, but I was unsure how that would translate to the NFL because the dude can coach kids. It's different coaching adults, and we've seen that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Pros make millions of dollars, and the coach and the kids, they're trying to get into the pros, so they're going to listen to everything. So
right.
I always liked Matt Rule personally, but I think he's gotten the short end of the stick of having like a quarterback that he can choose. He's just been kind of getting quarterbacks thrown at him.
Right.
Obviously, if he was to get fired by the Panthers eventually, then like he would get a college job in 2 seconds. But
it'd be awesome. He'd be awesome wherever he goes.
I feel like he needs to get his own drafted quarterback where he can groom him. I think Baker Mayfield's fine, but I think he really needs to be like, hey, I need to groom a quarterback and like bring him in and have him as my own, and pretty much for his contract. Like that's a lot of what these coaches do.
Well, he has Corral there now. They just drafted Corral. I mean, look at Corral. Look at Baker in college. I know there's no Heisman, but there's not much of a difference.
He slung it a lot with the coach.
Lane
Kiffin. Yeah. So I mean, he always had a happy offense, but he got hurt later on, right? So he kind of fell
in
off.
The bowl game versus Baylor.
So I'm hoping maybe there's a point where he's like, this is my quarterback. I like how he feels. I need to get him in next year, or maybe at the end of the season if things don't work out. But either way, he needs to have a quarterback next to his contract.
All right, we'll move on. Colts off of the tie against Houston, like that's literally a joke. Head to Jacksonville and are 3.5-point favorites. Now, I talked early season, my AFC South previews, my week 1 show. Okay. I love the Jaguars in DFS all season long. I love the Jaguars in overs all season long. I love how high-powered their offense is. And not really high-powered their offense is. I love how much upside their offense is combined with a bad defense. They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to be throwing it. I like Trevor Lawrence every single game. And especially in this situation, the Colts off of a disappointing game are going to come out firing. That's going to lead the Jags to come out throwing. I think the over is in play this game. I think a lot of DFS are in play this game.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, if you don't know, I'm pretty much playing him every week for 2 rushing touchdowns. That's kind of my social experiment that I'm playing right now because
what are the odds on that?
What
are the odds on that?
So he was 45-1 last week. I didn't hit. This week he's 60-1.
Wow.
So he's a rushing. So when he was at Clemson, I used to cash first touchdowns with him constantly. Like he was like 20-1. Like, but they always used to all draw plays for him. So like I know WP pretty well, and he would always have Wentz in situations where like he could run for touchdowns a lot. I think he's kind of holding, the dog off, if you will, with Lawrence, but he has great rushing ability. And he had I think they must have like 5 drop passes last week or something crazy, but like they need to let him kind of run for touchdowns at this point if they want to start contending in games. And you know what? If they start letting him run a little bit, he could run for 2 touchdowns easy. I'm playing 60-1 this week.
Yeah, ETN dropped like 2. He dropped one was
Mm-hmm.
overthrown, and then one he kind of dropped near like
Hit him right in the numbers, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw, but I clicked off JT, Trevor Lawrence, and Zay Jones. Zay Jones led the league in red zone targets last week. Kind of maybe a fluke, but I mean, you're getting targets in the red zone. That should lead to some good things in the near future.
You would think so.
You would think so. So I'm gonna play Trevor Lawrence damn near every week in fantasy because he's gonna be cheap basically all year long. Last week I played Marvin Jones, who didn't really do anything for me. Maybe I chose the wrong Jones. Maybe it's Zay Jones.
Marvin Jones Jr. Yeah, he was pretty good for Detroit, right? And then he came over there.
So I'm gonna go with Zay Jones. Then I don't have to explain Jonathan Taylor. He's gonna be a workhorse, gonna score a touchdown for sure. So I think this is a good stack because I think the Colts come out ground and pound early, get on the board with JT, and then bring it back with the Jaguars stack. So I think this is a very viable stack if you're looking for a single game stack. But you know how I said those 3-point dogs? I mean, 3-point road dogs. I think this is a fair one to look at.
No, absolutely. I mean, you're getting value with the Colts. If the Colts took care of business against the Texans, they probably would have been a 6.5, 7-point favorite.
Yep.
The fact that they tied, which was pretty much a loss, and then Jaguars are kind of a darling of this year for the most part for a lot of betting public with Dougie P. That was one of my plays this year was the under 6.5 because like doubling their win total kind of seemed kind of outrageous just for pretty much drafting a defense. I mean, they're going to be good eventually on defense, but like first year in the NFL, like there's a lot of growing pains. But Dougie P is not going to make you win more than double amount of your games. No coach is going to do that. Tomlin might make you win maybe 1.5 extra games, but that's about it.
Yeah, and also a little revenge factor from last year, the Jaguars beating the Carson Wentz-led Colts to make them miss the playoffs. I think I'm selling myself on the Colts so far. We did the Panthers. I think you sold me on the Panthers. I think I like the Colts too.
Yeah, I like the Colts.
We will move on to New England, head to Steelers. Weird spread, weird game. This is going to be kind of a slugfest. It's going to be. It feels like an old school New England New England Steelers slugfest. Low scoring, total is low for a reason. I don't know if there's anything I'd play DraftKings wise. How do you think this game's going to turn out? Everyone's cheap in this game.
Everyone's cheap, so I think that gives you kind of inclination. There's not going to be a whole lot of scoring, so that under is probably a good play. I'm personally staying away from this. I had Tomlin last week getting like almost a touchdown, which was crazy because like anytime you probably get one of the best coaches getting like a touchdown, you got to think he had like what is his name, Randolph, right? The quarterback,
Mason Rudolph from Oklahoma State.
Yeah, right, Mason Rudolph. They won like 9 games with him. Like that's insane. Like he's an incredible coach. Incredible. Yeah. Now it's got Trubisky, who's way more serviceable. Now the line's adjusting now because of all the the Bengals hype from last year. That was pretty easy there. But this game's tough, man. I personally am not taking this game. I mean, because the Patriots look bad now. They're a 2-point favorite. I personally would just take probably the +2 with the Steelers because anytime Tomlin's a dog, I usually take them. They usually cash us out, but this is pretty much a stay away from me.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to play defense. I think the Steelers defense is a very viable option at 2-8 against New England.
So that's the big part of it.
Yes, okay, Watt's out, but they're middle of the price against New England, who is what do you want to make of them on offense? And you saw what they did last week. I know, no, actually you're right. Watt, because I was a big perpetrator of this last year. TJ Watt is the mega X factor to the Steelers defense.
Sure,
it's night and day without him. So maybe not, but they are cheap without Watt.
I like the value you put with it because they're still in a learning curve with the new offensive coordinator. And will they get it right this week? Probably not. They probably need a couple more weeks. I don't think Belichick's in a big rush with this team this year. I think he knows what he's getting himself into. This is kind of like a wash year, if you will, for the Patriots.
Right.
So can you take advantage of that with the betting market? Possibly, but this is probably the toughest game on the board.
Yeah, this is probably a stay away from me.
Yeah.
All right, we will move on to Washington. They head to Detroit. Detroit, I guess, is just the team that will never back down. They're just doing what they did last year, and they are running with it. So what's your thoughts on this game? Very interesting game here. I think it's going to be fun.
I love the lines here. Not going to lie. They haven't been a favorite since, I think, 2020 or something like that. They're a favorite now. Washington squeaked out a win. I think it's very important that run defense of Washington was absolutely terrible. The Jags running back had like 8 yards or 11 yards a carry or something crazy. Swift should be able to go bonkers here. I think he might be a popular play, but if you want to get those points, I think Swift's that guy. I think Goff can do enough. Wentz could definitely get rushed a little bit here by that defense and the blitzing. And we know, well, I especially know because I had Wentz all the time. When he gets flustered, he wants to hold on the ball for days, and he's going to cause a turnover. He calls it against Jacksonville, who's not even a good defense. I love the Lions here. I booked it at 2.5. I would book it again at 1.5 at this point. I think they win outright easy.
Yeah, I like the Lions here too. Fantasy wise, you might be. I think it's DeAndre Swift, and that's it. I don't know which Redskins receiver you can trust yet, or Commanders, whatever. I don't know which Washington receiver you can trust yet because we saw them. I think they all scored last week, or 2 out of the 3 scored last week. And Dotson had an awesome game. McLaurin's awesome. Player, man. Curtis Samuel's awesome. Obviously, they're all at the same
weapons on the outside. They should be a lot. But you know what? I'm not even a big fan of their head coach because he got kind of hyped up when Cam Newton went kind of bonkers that one year. Right. And well, you're a Panthers fan. Yeah. Rivera. I'm not a big Rivera fan. I think he's kind of a phony, honestly. Yeah. I just think he got at the right place at the right time when Cam Newton was just cooking. I agree. It was just straight cooking. And you or me could have been calling plays and he's running for 20 yards, dunking the ball. It didn't matter. I mean, I just think he was right place, right time. I think he's a great dude. I just don't think he's that great of a coach, honestly.
Yeah, he got a lot of praise because you know how Brandon Staley the last few years would go for it on 4th down and just not get it ever? He was that guy, but he got it every single time. So that was like his thing. Riverboat Ron would just go for it every 4th and 4 and just get it. So, but like I said, I think it's DeAndre Swift in this game if we're going to play someone. All of these 3 Washington Redskins, Washington Commanders receivers are the exact. If you put them all next to each other and looked at a silhouette, they all look very similar. All of these receivers, so I would probably stay away from them because you don't know which is which, or maybe just play the cheapest one. But we'll move on to the next game. Atlanta heads to New Orleans, and this is the first 10-point spread of the week. There's a few of them here. So, what's your thoughts on this game? Rams off of an ugly performance.
Yeah, I mean, this is personally a game that I really love the under in personally. If I'm going to play something, I played it at 47 when it came out. Now it went down. I feel a little bit better now. The Rams have an extra little bit of time. The defense should be able, coming off a terrible performance. I think the Rams defense comes out and plays. Falcons scored a good amount of points last week with Mariota and, Cordell Patterson. I don't think they're going to score as much this game. I think this is going to be pretty much stuffed. I think Stafford plays a little bit better. There might be some injury issues with it. I love the under. I booked it. It's one of my favorite plays this week. It dropped down to 46.5. I see from your line. I will not play anybody DFS-wise here.
Well, yeah, I don't love anyone here. I mean, you can never hate Cooper Kupp. I like other guys at that 10K price point, though.
It's going to be a low-scoring game.
I agree. Yeah, not much for me to say here.
Maybe you take the Rams defense, maybe. That might be
maybe. The thing is, look at their price. They are pretty. I think they're the highest defense. I think they're the highest defense on the slate. Yeah, they are.
Oh, all right. Well, then you probably don't take them then. But that's my point. They're probably going to shut down the Falcons, and it's going to be
under. You're right.
Yeah, I like that play.
Maybe I'll tell you there. Maybe I'll tell you on that under. But yeah, besides that, I don't never want to lay double digits with an NFL team versus any NFL team. Yeah. So. Yeah, not much to say about this game. We'll move on to Seattle off of their Super Bowl, which they won, head to San Francisco in divisional NFC West game. The 49ers off of a ugly loss in an ugly rainy game. So what are you thinking here?
I'm thinking over. I think this is an over game. I think the 49ers come out real big, firing. I mean, they were pretty much playing in a pool last week, right?
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And suck out all the water. It was an ugly game. I think Trey Lance gets into a little groove here. We get to see, Deebo Samuel, he scored last week, which he's just an offensive juggernaut. But I think they're going to put up a lot of points. I think the 49ers can put up about 30 points this game. I think Seahawks played their Super Bowl last week.
They did.
There was a lot of emotion last week. I think there's going to be a letdown on the defense. I think 49ers at least put up 30 points. I think that'll be enough to get over on the game. So I like the over.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And Jamal Adams is out for the season. That's a big loss for them.
That's also another thing as well. Yep.
Yeah, and when you look at that game, they kind of did nothing in the second half. All they did was just barely enough to win. They got fumbles at the 1 yard line, which was the difference in the game. That's very fluky, which is why I like Denver when we get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely agree with you on 49ers. I think I don't hate them to cover this 8.5 either. Maybe a little teaser spot. So I think some of these 49ers are legit targets fantasy wise. I don't know how much you want to play Trey Lance though. You might be getting like, which is priced 57. I'd rather play Flacco. I literally would. I'd rather play Flacco.
I agree with you too. I think he's gonna have a good game this week.
Yeah, I think he'll have a good game, and then both of them. I think they'll both have good games, but I don't love Trey Lance yet to just put in my lineup. But
You'll
I
probably
think
get the ownership on your side too with Flacco, so that would be big
for sure. Oh, 100%, 100%. All right, we'll move on to if you would have go into the season, you would have never guessed this line. But here we are. No Dak Prescott for the Dallas, and Bengals off of a wild game. I think they had 5 turnovers, Cincinnati, and they still almost won. They head to Dallas off of a horrible, ugly loss as 7-point favorites. So I think the Bengals get it back together and win this game. I like the Bengals first half, I'd probably say.
I think Bengals first half is the kind of right play. It's funny, when this line first came out, it was Bengals plus 2.5. Yep. And then Dak got hurt and it got switched. It got up to 8.5 at one point. It went up to 8.5, which is absurd. If you watch Dak Prescott play on Sunday healthy, you watch him play, he could not hit a wide receiver. Like, I get it. Tampa Bay's defense is good, but when they do those outs where the wide receiver should get open most of the time because they know the route, the defensive back doesn't know the route. He could not hit them. The ball's going out of bounds. Like, this was before he even got hurt. So I think that's alarming in itself. If I were to take something here, I would take the Cowboys with the points. I think Cooper Rush can be serviceable enough. He has a whole week where he knows he's the starter, and they're going to work that offense around him. He got kind of thrown into the fire, wasn't going to be in there and everything. I think Bengals win, obviously. I would take him for one of your survivors if you want to. But if you can get past the touchdown, maybe you sprinkle the Bengals, but it's going to be an ugly game. I think Bengals win because especially coming off that loss against the Steelers, I think that's why the line's so high. But yeah, I think the Cowboys could hang if you get over a touchdown.
I can promise you Burrow's not going to throw 4 interceptions again.
That I can guarantee you.
Yeah, I like the Chase Burrow stack for sure. Maybe chase it with some Zeke, maybe not. But Jamar Chase was one of the only receivers to play 100% of the snaps last week. So I mean, as he should. He's one of the
Jamar Chase is awesome to watch.
One of the best receivers in the league. So I think the Burrow Chase stack is awesome. I think that's going to be popular, but popular for a reason. So that would be my idea here for DraftKings. Mm-hmm. We will move on to another 10-point game. The Texans head to Denver, and I love everything Denver in DraftKings this week. I don't know if I want to lay 10. I love Denver coming off of Seattle's Super Bowl, fumbling twice the 1 yard line. I think they're going to come out absolutely firing. The coaching staff. The coaching staff owned up to their mistake. They were like, we should have went for it. And it's rare for a head coach to say that. Usually they say, yeah, we knew we were going to kick. He just missed. Right. They owned up to their mistake. He's a rookie head coach. He knew that was the wrong idea. So I love all things Denver this week.
Yeah, I talked about on Tuesday on Tackle the Board. This is what I call a body bag game. Broncos are going to absolutely annihilate the Texans. You can pretty much chalk up the Texans win as a win. Lovie Smith sucks. Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now. Terrible coach. Had a little thing going on in Illinois. Ended up going to the Texans. I thought that was a terrible hire in the first place. Davis Mills, okay. Broncos going to be coming off pissed this game. They have plenty of weapons. The defense should be there as well. I think they win by at least 2 touchdowns game. This might be one of those games you look like, oh, they won by 20 points. Like, it just It's one of those situations. So like a Jerry Jeudy, Sutton, if you want to like stack those guys to throw them in there, I think that's a good spot because I think the Texans, them winning, them time was pretty much a win. And you're like, oh, the Texans played hard last week. But you got to remember, Lovie Smith
played bad. Colts played horrible.
Yeah, Colts played. That's my whole point. Colts lost that game. And at the end of the day, the Broncos are going to kill these guys. You know how pissed, Wilson's going to be after losing against Seattle. Like, they're going to put it on.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bloodbath.
110%. Yeah. So we're on the same page. I think it's gonna be a bloodbath. I don't even have to name the names. I think all Broncos are in play this week.
Whatever.
I
Just throw
love
them
the
in there.
Wilson Judy stat.
They're all going to eat.
All Broncos this week. All right, we will move on to Arizona. Heads to Vegas. Kind of a sneaky big line, but I think it's a sneaky big line. Then at the end of the day, the Raiders win by 8. Like the Raiders just cover this. But like it's gonna be close all game, and the Raiders just score late because I just feel it. I can already see myself betting plus 5.5. Like, oh, the Cardinals can win this game outright, and then they're in there the whole game, and Vegas just scores late. So I'm just gonna stay away.
So I made the mistake last week. So I took the Cardinals because I was getting too many points with Kyler Murray, and I was like, this is ridiculous. It's kind of like 6.5. I'm like, Kyler Murray can scramble, not get hit, like all these things completely wrong on that. They absolutely get smashed. But if you look what they did last year, so the Raiders, if you look what they did last year, they give up a lot of points. So Patrick Mahomes, they gave up 41 points. They gave up 32 points to Cincinnati. Dak Prescott, 36 last year. This defense is not that good. I don't think there were that many upgrades. I should have personally took the over last week, but because I was like in awe of Kyler Murray and 6.5, I backed off of it. Not making this mistake again. I like the over here a lot. Don't overthink it. It's going to go over. Points will be scored. The Oakland offense, the Las Vegas offense runs through the run game because that's what the head coach does now for them. But they're going to score. Devontae Adams had a great game. I think he's going to have family at this game. So I think he's going to be a little more motivated on top of that. I think he should have another huge game. So I like the over. Just don't overthink it. Enjoy this. It's one of those 4:00 over games that we love. And you're going to see right here.
Yeah, Devontae Adams had like a 45% target share last week, which is like borderline ridiculous. And no, he's not going to sustain that all season long. It's going to go down.
Sure, obviously, yeah.
I mean, Cooper Kupp last year had like 35% by the end of the year, which is also ridiculous. And it just proved that's like why he was like what he was last year. So, I mean, if you want to like play Devontae Adams, he's not even crazy expensive. We've seen higher. I think the Raider stack is in play, and like you said, I like there to be points in this game. Maybe stack this game, do quarterback, receiver, receiver, 2 in each game, something like that. I think it's going to be a very high scoring game, but I don't love a side here. We will move on to another 10-point spread. Chicago off of maybe their only win of the season. No, not their only win.
You
never know. Chicago heads to Green Bay, where Aaron Rodgers is like pissed, I would say. He doesn't have anyone to throw the ball to. So what's your thoughts here?
When I looked at this game, I think there's some big issues with Green Bay as far as his weapons dropping balls. I think that changes this week. I think guys are going to start catching more. I think they're going to work on some more things. I think some of these guys got thrown into the fire and they weren't up for the challenge. I actually like the over. Like you said, a pissed off Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yeah.
And you know how he says, he's like, I fucking own the Bears.
I was just going to say that.
I fucking own the Bears. I'm telling you what, after that loss and after him being pissed off on the sidelines, they could easily score at least 30 points this game. I don't think that's a problem. So I'm more than happy to take the over this game because a pissed off Aaron Rodgers will score. So I think the Bears will score some themselves. If they can get in the double digits, which I think they can. I like the over, and it's dropping, so whatever. I'm still like because I think there's a public perception that the Bears can't score. So
right. Which is, I mean, yeah, I agree with you there. I think that's going to lead me to like a Packers team total, which they'll check out. Which will probably,
definitely for sure.
I think I like that. It smacked for us last year on a weekly basis, but yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers at 6'8", that's very cheap for him. I think that's a decent play. I mean, who are you going to play him with? That's a different story. I think it's whatever one of those receivers, maybe a tight end. Dylan is rising on their depth chart. Dylan is going to get more touches on a weekly basis, but I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing it a lot this week. So we will move on to.
By the way, real quick, that team total for the Green Bay Packers is 26.5. The over is -105. So you're getting a juice discount.
Yeah.
I think they could score 30 this game. You're getting a really pissed off Aaron Rodgers.
So that's going to be first half team total 13.5 or something like that, which I like.
Yeah, I like that.
Especially coming out hot after that loss at home.
Yeah.
First half team total over 13.5. That might be the play. All right, we will move on to the first Monday night game. Another 10-point spread. Titans are getting 10 at Buffalo. I love Buffalo this season. I've too much money on Buffalo division, AFC, Super Bowl, and
Sure.
Allen MVP. But
Understandable.
I don't like I don't want to bet against Vrabel getting 10 points is what I'm going to say.
I could not agree more. So on Tackle Board on Tuesday, my co-host Russ and myself, Russ claimed this to be a body bag game for the Bills. I highly disagree.
I agree with you,
Titans.
T-Bomb.
I think the Titans getting 10 points is very disrespectful for the fact they lost as a 5-point favorite. First of all, the Bills are the darling of the AFC. If you didn't take them at plus 650, plus 600, that number is long gone now. So you can forget about that after their dominating win. And by the way, losing Super Bowl team playing against the Super Bowl champion, the losing team usually comes out on top because there's a lot of revenge factor that they lost the Super Bowl. But anyway, the Titans gained 10 points. They're going to be running the ball a lot, dinking and dunking. If you're going to be doing that constantly, you're going to be running clock, and I think that's very important. 10 points is way too much for this game. I love the Bills this year. There's not much to really not like about them, but 10 points, the overreaction of them being terrible is absurd. This is like a Tomlin plus the 7.5 against the Bengals. I'm not buying into it. Give me the Titans getting 10 points.
Yeah, and going off what you said on that, I don't think there's a DFS hammer in this game. I think I'm gonna chase the games I chase. There's maybe a few spots that I like in the next game that we'll talk about, but sidewise, it's probably Titans or nothing for me. I like one of those teaser legs. Who was that I liked? The 49ers. No, it was like the 49ers -8 or something like that against Seattle. Tease the Titans up through 17, something like that, or 16.
Yeah,
I do like that. So, but besides that, I don't think there's a DFS hammer in this game. Anything else for this game? You ready to move on to the Philly game?
I think just pretty much the Titans is the play. I think based on their run play and everything like that, I think the Bills won't get enough opportunities to score. They kind of went bonkers the first week. I think the offense is good, but I think this Titans defense can hold their own a little bit regardless of what happened last week. So that's pretty much about it. I like the Titans with the points.
All right, final game, final Monday night game, 2 out of 2. Eagles 2-point favorites against Minnesota. I love Minnesota this year. I don't love them on the road in this spot, Monday Night Football. I talked about how with Kevin O'Connell as their new OC, he's going to make Justin Jefferson even better, and we already saw it in week 1. He was able to have Cooper Kupp 20 yards open in week 17 when everyone knew he was the best receiver in the NFL. And if he can do that with an objectively more talented receiver in Justin Jefferson, watch out, Minnesota. Watch out for Minnesota. So, but I love Minnesota like down the road. I don't know how much I love them in a Monday Night Football primetime game against a hungry Philly team.
So this is a tough game, right? So
very tough.
You're having a small home favorite. You're having a small home favorite. Vikings looked incredible last week. The defense played really well. The Eagles defense did play well. They started again the prevent, giving up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I love the under this game. I think both teams showed they can score from last week. I think there's a public perception, hey, points are going to be scored left and right. I know my Eagles. This has been situations where I've always had the week before they scored a bunch and they've been in a big shootout. The next week never comes close to it. This is just something me being a fan of the Eagles I've watched and lived with most of my life. Now the line's dropped down to 50. I have a 51.5 under. I smashed that earlier. I think the under is the play. I think there's a lot of like revenge factor with the Vikings because I know Casey Keenum was the quarterback and there might have been some players there that were not, give or take, but this game will mean something, especially with all the hate with Cousins on primetime. I think
I forgot about that.
You're getting it. The line's tough. I think the Eagles could win this game. I'm kind of scared because that offense looks awesome by the Vikings. Yeah. But I like the under. I think it's going to be more of a grinded out game. I think the Vikings on defense, personally, like last week, Detroit blitzed Hurts like crazy. Like he was just getting blitzed left and right. And he was running because he had open lanes. He's like, but I don't think they're going to let him decide the game with his legs. I think that's a bad thing because they scored, 30 some points. So I think they're going to have him make him beam by his arm. I think he's going to dink and dunk a little bit more. Find Devontae Smith finally, and I like the under. I think the under is a smart play here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I'm not taking a side here. The only thing I'm doing, I love all Vikings every single week in DraftKings. I think all the buzz is going to be on Jefferson this week. I think it's going to
Mhm.
be a sneaky Dalvin
And
game.
Slay's very good, honestly. He's a great corner, so I think
Yeah,
he can contain him to some extent. So I think
yeah.
that'll be okay.
I like Dalvin here. The thing is with like I mentioned with Tua is in a similar situation. Jalen Hurts, he's got all these weapons, and I think he's a little bit more talented than Tua. But I know they put up 38 points last week. Jalen Hurts didn't have a receiving, or I mean a passing touchdown,
No,
which I know is very subjective. Like they ran the ball because it was the play call. But I mean like it's kind of like all right, like Jalen Hurts, you got to do something. I know you put up 38 points, but you didn't throw a pass
I think
touchdown.
it was a lot with the blitzing in general. And personally, me, I'm not a Hurts guy. Like you won't
Yeah.
see me back Hurts because like when the Eagles drafted him, I wasn't honestly that crazy about him. I hope he does well because that'll help the team with like the cap and everything like that. But he was always put with really good players. So it was
Yep.
always like a tough situation to really evaluate his talent. Like, yeah, he's very good with the legs and everything, but like I told you, there's a difference. When you have a Herbert that zings that ball, like that's what you want. Like Hertz doesn't do that. But I think I think he's understanding the NFL game a little bit more. So I'm hoping he progresses with it. But once again, learning curve, same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I love the under here.
So yeah, this is gonna be an awesome game to round out NFL Week 2. I'm excited to watch it, and I'm excited to start football. In what about
Yeah,
30
absolutely, man.
minutes? 30 minutes we start. So yeah, that about does it for us. Thank you for watching along. Thank you for joining me, Chris. I will see you guys next week for golf, and that about does it for us. So you guys know where to find us. Follow Ebom on Twitter. Follow me, and I'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.
Peace.